but it also unveiled how sick we are as an entire population and how desperately we are in need of a new way of thinking about health, sickness, and disease. I think we're really on a precipice. Like COVID really showed us how sick we were as a population. And, and it also showed us how vastly different people think. Like I had people sending me hate mail, emails, Facebook messages because of the things I was writing. Like you're going to kill people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like
during the period of when COVID was peaking.
Yeah, because I was saying
Same.
I made video and I was talking about it, and I was saying, look, we're all going to get COVID. Every single person's going to get it. So I'm not going to try to hide under my mattress. I'm going to try to be as healthy as I can. So when it comes, I'm going to survive in the best possible way that I can. And people were like, oh, you don't know anything and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just saying, look, I'm a realist, and I'm telling you, you can make yourself healthy. You can build a fortress, or you can just try to hide from a virus. You're not going to hide from the virus. There's 10 to the 31st power of viruses in the atmosphere, so there's no hiding. So
the big thing I was telling people was, like you're saying, we were seeing the extent at which people are unhealthy.
Absolutely.
Right?
And
I said, here's the government now telling you, you got to wash your hands, wear a mask, you got to stay home, you got to protect yourself from this virus. But at the same time, all of the things that were making us sick, the alcohol, the cigarettes, the processed food, the high sugar, the this, the that, those were the things that were contributing to everyone being sick.
Right.
So hopefully, once this thing is under control, the government is going to say, okay, well, now that we're realizing how sick people are, we're going to have to find a way to improve health. We're going to have to find maybe a way to we'll send vitamins to the house. So for those who can't afford vitamins, we're going to send you vitamin C, vitamin D, a multi-mineral. We want to make sure you're healthy. We're going to maybe even mandate, given amount of time spent outside. You got to take a 10-minute walk outside every day to be a good citizen. Or you got to, we're going to make alcohol more restrictive. We're going to ban cigarettes. We're going to ban drinks with sugar beyond a certain amount. We're going to ban fast foods, or perhaps restrict them, because we want to improve the health of people to ensure that pandemics like this, if they do happen, aren't going to be that big of a deal. But I kept telling people, I said, once everything's under control, I said, you think they'll ever do any of that? Of course not. They're not going to change anything. Everything is going to stay exactly the same.
Well,
and everything has stayed exactly the same. Nothing has changed.
If
you want to rely on the medical system to stay healthy,
you're not
don't. Just forget it.
Now, I said I would go even further and say, if we're relying on the government to keep you well, the government doesn't keep anybody well. In fact, Anthony Fauci was the head of the National Association of Allergy and Immune, whatever, NAID, whatever it is. Under his leadership, all of the things that he's supposed to be watching over got dramatically worse. So, and so what did he get? He got more power. He got accolades. He got acknowledgement. Meanwhile, autoimmune diseases and things are epic. He did nothing right. And yet he's the guy that everybody looks to as some type of authority on health. This guy doesn't know anything about health. You know.
And I tell everyone, a sick population is a profitable one. Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
No one's been able to prove me wrong on that very simple, basic statement.
And even you go back to like Dostoevsky, he said, it's easier to control a population in despair than one in prosperity. So what do we want to do with the governments? They deal in despair, so you need to separate yourself from these authoritarian governments and ideas, because they do not have your best interest in mind. And people, like other people go out and they speak out about these things. There's no benefit to us speaking out about these things. Like we get hit on the head with hammers all the time. Like The people reported me to my state board and and did all of these things. I was just trying to help people get well and stay well. And, and so like, the board contacted me, so-and-so said, you said this and that, and whatever, and I have screenshots, and I'm like, all right, let me see it. And I'm like, yeah, I said that. Yeah. And they're like, okay, we really can't admonish you for this. I mean, what are we going to do? So, but
there has to be a loud mouth to elicit any kind of change. Like I'm the loud mouth when it regards to hormones, let's say for men going to these clinics and being put on these tiny little doses, and we're just going to target the middle of the range and so on and so forth. And yeah, I've said some stuff that some people might find shocking, offensive.
Right.
They'll say my E2 is too high. That's a big one that people will tell me. But you need to be a loud voice to elicit some kind of a change. And I'm hoping that somewhere I might have changed a few minds along the way, and those people with changed minds will change other minds, and the system will hopefully eventually change. And it's the same thing with diet. It's the same thing with so many of these different things.
And if people don't speak out, then nothing gets better, nothing changes, and everything gets kind of jammed under the thumb of, the authority, So, but I think the pandemic did a lot of things good for us. And I'm not talking about people getting sick and dying, obviously not. I'm talking about helping people to see who thinks alike, who has the same ideas about not just health, but liberty and freedom and these types of things. Because so the government did for us what we couldn't do for each other for many, 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 many decades of like linking people together who think alike, and then also seeing people who think totally different from you. Like, oh, well, if the government says that you need to shut down your business and close your doors for this many days or whatever, then that's their job. No, that's not their job. Where does it say that in the Constitution? Canadians have a constitution, right? But there's some, no, we're not going for that. So it showed us a lot of people who think differently, and allowed those people who think differently to kind of come together in a way that we hadn't before. So like when you talk about things like vaccines and stuff, there are people who have had questions about vaccines for decades, but that didn't come to light until the COVID vaccine thing got pressed onto people. Then they're like, wait a minute, I don't really want to take this vaccine. This is an experiment, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden they're like, what about all these other vaccines? And they start looking at all these other vaccines too. Like, well, maybe these aren't so great either. And so, these conversations people weren't having before. And now it's like all in the light of day. And
at the very least, it made them question things.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with questioning things. And maybe they questioned the thing and they're like, okay, I'm realizing it is good after all. Okay, great. But at least I took the time to question.
Right.
You question it and you say, now that I've questioned it and I don't want to touch this.
I don't
Great.
mind. I forget the guy's name. He said, I don't mind questions that can't be answered. I don't like answers that can't be questioned. And so, and that's what it did. If it's science, then it should be questioned. That's what science is, right? It's strong enough to withstand questioning. So if you tell me so-and-so, this is science. Okay, well, let's ask questions. Oh, no, you can't ask these questions. Well, then it's not science. It's dogma. Somebody's smashing dogma in my face and telling me it's scientific. And, and so much of that went on during this pandemic, that a lot of people started to really see that the emperor doesn't have clothes, like they're like, wait a minute, this is all bull. And I've had more people come to me and say, what do you think about this? And I'll be like, well, I've been kind of on this mindset for a long time. And they're like, well, this is all this. And they're all fired up about it. And I'm like, man, old hat, like this has been old hat for decades, so, but I think it did some good stuff for us. But it also unveiled how sick we are as an entire population, and how desperately we are in need of a new way of thinking about health, sickness, and disease.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I keep saying, if there was some kind of restrictions on some of these things that harm us, to make them maybe a little less accessible. And I hate to say the word restrictions. I don't really want to restrict anyone from doing anything.
No, I mean,
but if they're going to be putting stuff in their bodies that we know will harm them, why not make it a little bit more difficult to get and make the things that make them healthier a little easier to get? And they might say, well, I would love some of that, but that's a pain in the ass to get now. You know what? I'll just have myself some of this. It's there's got to be something that'll change at one point, because if everything is just accessible to everyone with no restriction, like I always kept making the statement of saying, I can go buy 10 packs of cigarettes and tell the cashier I'm going to go home and smoke them all. And they're like, yeah, no problem. I'll go buy 5 bottles of vodka. I'm going to go drink all these. Go. No cop is going to show up at my house saying, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
There's no one's going to care. Yeah. Friends and family might say, you really shouldn't be doing that, but there's nothing beyond that. Well, but then if a lot of the things I want to take that are healthy, you can't buy vitamin D at over 1,000 IU in Canada anymore. It's banned because it's toxic.
Oh.
Vitamins are toxic. Oh. Supplements are toxic. The things that help us are bad. The things that harm us, you can have them to your heart's content.
It's so funny that there'll be this smackdown on something like vitamins. When you look at the number of people who've actually died from taking too many vitamin D pills, I mean, I don't think there's any, but let's say there's one. Well, 10 to 12,000 people in the United States die a year from taking Advil, aspirin, and Tylenol.
Yeah.
That's 10,000 times more dangerous than vitamin D. Like, I could probably take a whole bottle of 50,000 unit vitamin Ds, swallow the whole bottle, 100 capsules, and be fine.
Nothing will happen.
Yeah. I mean, but why would I do that? I mean, like, it's just dumb. But, I mean, like...
But no one's got the patent on vitamin D.
Right.
Someone's got the patent on Advil.
They do. And so we can look at the people who are sick from taking so much of this stuff, and we could say, hey, this is going to, stress your kidneys, burn a hole in your stomach. And if you take too much Tylenol and you take a few drinks, it's going to shut your liver down, and all these things happen every year without fail, year after year after year. And so they don't smack down on that. But, Danny, if your vitamin D has more than 1,000 international units, then that's too much.
Yeah.
You
just have to take 5 of them now.
Yeah, take 5 of them instead of 1. Right. So it's just nuts. I mean, I don't know who does this stuff, but I guess I kind of find myself in the thing about restricting things. Like, I'm kind of a libertarian thinker in that I don't really think we should restrict people from things. They can, but don't penalize the people who make good choices. Like during the pandemic, I wanted to go to the gym, but the gyms were closed. I'm like, so Walmart is open, but the gyms are closed. Okay. Good thinking. I mean, like, yeah. I can go to the corner gas station and get my smokes and my beer and whatever else, but I can't go work out.
The funny thing here was you needed to be vaccinated to go into a gym.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Here, okay? And then they closed the gyms. And I said, wait a sec. You need to be vaccinated to go in the gym. Therefore, by definition, the gym is one of the safest freaking places on the planet you can be, because everyone there is vaccinated. They're all safe. Right. Why close down that place? Isn't that the place that you like run and protect yourself at? Why close down that?
Then you get labeled as, oh, you're a cynical conspiracy theorist, and I say, well, I didn't start out being cynical. I wound up being cynical. But when enough data is obfuscated, destroyed, hidden, stopped being collected, and this data is, they're giving it to me, but then you start to dissect it and it's not even what it says it is, then you become cynical. And so, I remember
in the day, I mean, if any ailment or whatever, I'd go to my doctor and the doctor would say, you do this. It's my doctor. That's where you go. He's the guy or the girl who's going to tell you what's what, and you would watch the evening news and you want to know what's going on in the world. You watch the evening news and they're going to tell you exactly what's going on. And that was the case all through, growing up, up until really not all that long ago, the last 10 years. And suddenly shit just went sideways. And you're watching the news. You're like, no, and it doesn't matter what side it is. They just both have a narrative.
Agenda.
And you go see doctors, now you educate yourself a little bit about health.
Yeah.
And then the doctor's telling you to do something and you're like, well, what? And it's just, you just lose that faith in the system at this point. And then as soon as you do, when you start asking yourself those questions that some people may find offensive, because apparently it's offensive to ask a question these days.
Right.
Now you're thrown, oh, you're extreme right, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you're this and you're that, you're a loon.
Right.
Okay, so don't ask questions and you're good. Ask the questions and you're the crazy person.
Do as you're told.
So,
Do as you're told. So
yeah, I'm gonna keep asking questions, guys.
Yeah.
Just letting you all know. So you can call me crazy.
Question. And and I don't mind it. I don't mind people asking me questions and challenging as long as it's done in the spirit of learning something. Questions are good. If somebody says, I think you're wrong, I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it. And I'm not offended by that. I like to be challenged. So, okay, you think this, and this, and I think this and that, and let's talk about it. Let's debate it.
Yeah.
And only good things come from that. I may learn something I didn't know. Like somebody challenged
Absolutely.
that, and they had some data I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I learned something. But
these days you kind of wind up on a side.
Yeah.
You got the people on one side, whether it be vaccines, whether it be nutrition or diet or exercise, or there's like 2 or 3 different sides to each of these things. And the people fall in a camp and they fall in their little, in a little community. And their community, they're under the belief now theirs is the best.
Right.
And anything outside is wrong and only theirs is right. So you get 2 opposing sides talking and it immediately turns into an argument and they're swearing at each other and insulting each other. And it's like, can you guys just shut the hell up and listen to what each person has to say? One of you is wrong. You both believe you're right.
Yeah. But
one of you is wrong. Let's see who's able to make the most compelling argument. One of you will learn something.
Right.
But that whole dynamic is falling apart more and more with every passing year I see.
Yeah.
You don't see just the typical discussion.
Yeah.
I go sometimes on places like Reddit.
Yeah.
Because there's tons of guys asking questions about hormones, and I'll go chime in, and you get the ones they'll say, hey, you might have the ones that say, I absolutely agree with everything you've said.
Right.
Then you got the other ones that'll say, there's I don't think what you're saying is correct. Let me explain why. And then they provide some evidence, they provide something compelling, and they go, and then you have a discussion because you're trying to figure, okay, which of us is right here? Let's talk it out. You might talk it out for hours. And then the other one is, screw you, Danny, you're a moron. Danny's an idiot. Fuck Danny Bossa.
Yeah.
And I don't get why it is that as soon as you tell somebody something that goes against their confirmation bias or their beliefs, it's an automatic, just slew of insults. I wish we could just stick to that one and have these conversations that other people can then read.
Right.
And go back and forth and decide which one is more compelling and might learn something from that. But we don't get that much anymore.
Once you've slandered somebody, the debate is lost. I think, I don't know if that's Aristotle or somebody, but they say once they start calling you names, they've lost. Like there's nothing, they have nothing more. And anybody who gets triggered by you challenging them isn't very confident in what their knowledge base is. So like I welcome questions. I always do. And like I said, and I don't know everything. I could not know something. I could have a blind spot that I'm operating in. That happens all the time. That's where I learn stuff. I'm like, oh, let me think about that. Yeah, that's a pretty valid point. I think I need to experiment or I need to look there. Heck, half the stuff I know, I think I screwed up at one point or another, like having a theory and being, going down that rabbit hole and finding out, nope, that's not it.
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of people operate. If they're honest, they make mistakes. You make mistakes, you operate in your own blind spot. Somebody shines a little light on you and says, hey, I don't think what you're doing is right. And here's why. And you go, let me check that out. And you check it out and you go, yeah, I think this guy's right, and there's more here. But, my pre-selection of ideas that I had going in to confirm what I thought I already knew, confirmation bias, which you're talking about, we all do it. All of us do it. It's just, being aware that we're doing it
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all this stuff, you know, it's all a learning process, right? We're all looking at things and trying to learn stuff and impart good information to the people who listen to us. And, you know, and over the years, you know, that we've had, you know, lots of different discussion, and I've seen lots of good speakers, and, you know, I've definitely learned things that I didn't know. I mean, for sure.
Yeah, I've gone through a period now where I said to myself, I'm going to assume that everything I know is bullshit. Everything. I need to now get everything revalidated.
Yeah.
And if I say something, I'm going to tell anybody, prove me wrong. And if you can, I'm happy, because that's not one less false information I know and one more true thing that I know.
Right. But strong opinions loosely held. So you have these opinions, and then somebody gives you evidence and you go, huh, okay, maybe I need to rethink this. And I think we're all, if we're honest, we're all a work in progress anyway. We're all learning new things, and even just the same things, but perhaps in looking at it in a different way, in a more overarching way, like a bigger picture thing. I mean, sometimes that dawns on me, like, okay, well, maybe it's just not all about, you know, insulin and cortisol. Maybe it's more about some of these other more esoteric things, and it's a part of a larger continuum, which is kind of how I operate. Like, yeah, it's like,